All right. Yeah. Yo, Black, it's time. I don't know how to start this. Um, you know what? We go right into it. Queen, thank you for coming back on the show.
Appreciate you.
Um, Nicks and Bruises, we back. Got a couple questions and comments and conversation points for us to talk about. Um,
Okay.
Question for a lot of Knicks fans. In general, is like what do you want? What are your expectations? Because I'm hearing fans are all over the place. They
Yeah,
they they
yeah,
like
yeah.
guys, they don't like guys, they critique guys off of you know what their limitations are and not necessarily their strengths.
Right,
Every player has limitations from
right,
from the best of them,
right,
but there's a couple of unrealistic expectations for some guys. So I'm really here to tell people, let's be honest. Let's have
right,
honest conversations.
right.
Realistic expectations.
Realistic, right,
If I'm being frank, last year I feel like we overachieved. I feel like for the most part, I think everybody should agree with that. If you look at your own individual expectations of the team coming into the season and where we ended,
right,
I would think 98% of us will say we overachieved. Um, I'll take it a step further and say I think we might have even skipped a step.
mm,
One of the things Sim would say on Nothing But Knicks is, throughout the season, let's take these steps. Let's take these steps. What I mean. I think we might have skipped a few steps, especially reaching that fourth seed and getting home court advantage going in. Um,
yeah,
I think in some instance that could be a disservice or a curse rather than a blessing because expectations automatically have risen for
right,
this coming season. You,
right,
you know, so that's what I mean. We skipped a step instead of maybe not having home court advantage
right,
and coming into the playoffs or even
right,
making it through the play in. It gives us more of a goal to reach forward to. But
right,
now starting at this fourth seed, a lot of people's expectations are
right,
beyond that, and that's not guaranteed. You know what I mean?
right,
So
yeah,
that's what I mean about realistic conversations. And then how could we avoid taking a step back? You know what I mean? Like we got that fourth seed. Let's strive to at least stay there,
right,
if not improve, and be okay with that. You know what I
right,
mean?
right,
Because like again, we overachieved. So those are some of the talking points. That I'm gonna mention throughout the show, and then I have like three questions for you, and and
okay,
and, and you
I'm
can you
ready.
can um you can answer those three however you feel best. So
All right,
we'll go with what is a pipe dream scenario for this off season and maybe upcoming season. Um, what is a a step forward or even a lateral move that'll keep us right where we are, not necessarily improve, guarantee improvement. You know what I mean?
mm-hmm.
But at least staying where we are, not going back, taking a step back, and then obviously oh my God, what are we doing? Like what
Right, right, right,
what would
right,
the,
right,
that type of scenario? So you can start in
yeah.
whichever way you want, and the floor is yours.
Can I just comment off of the intro? Some of the things you said in
One
the
hundred
intro.
percent, 100%.
Um, I think it's gonna be hard for us to. The Knicks got their work cut out for them if they want to build off of last season because 60% of our rotation is not under contract, right? And I also think that even though we got the fourth seed, I don't think the Knicks were the fourth best team in the Eastern Conference. I think they played the fourth best, obviously, to get that record, right? I think you have the top three, which is the first tier, and then I think you have that second tier, and I think the Knicks, at least the way the Knicks were last year, we don't even know who the Knicks are going to be this year. Knicks, Atlanta, Miami, Indiana, kind of all bunched up together. And in this offseason, the moves that teams make or fail to make is going to go a long way in terms of separating those second tier teams. I do think the Knicks exceeded our expectations, but I don't know if they overachieved as far as their own expectations. I think that they thought they were a good team. I think, Tibbs being there, holding them accountable, allowed them to kind of gel quicker than any of us thought. And I just think they flamed out in the playoffs, and a lot of that had to do with Randall's subpar play and, in my opinion, Tibbs' lack of adjustments, at least to my naked eye. So I think it's going to be hard to stay pat because we don't even have the same roster from last year, right? So how I'm looking at it is, what moves can the Knicks make that keep them in that second tier, right? Which would be like a lateral move because they have to make moves. They're not bringing back 60% of their roster. What moves can the Knicks make that put them into championship contention? Which for what you're saying would be that dream scenario. And what moves the Knicks can make or not make that can possibly have them in the play-in tournament. And that would be that, what are they doing, scenario. So I think in terms of championship contention, now, should I pick one of them? You want me to pick one of them, or
You could touch up on all three, but before you go forward, wait, what was the last thing you just said? Um,
that, because we don't really have that team returning from last year, it's possible that the Knicks can make some moves or maybe not make moves that can have us in the play-in tournament.
okay, all right. So, all right. Do you feel like us being in the play-in tournament is that, oh my god, what are you doing situation?
Yeah,
And
I think so.
and and the fact that you say yes, what what was your expectations coming into the season last year? Because
Last,
if coming in you thought
okay,
play in was okay, um, then to me that should still fall into somewhat into lateral, because considering you can be 7th or 8th and be in the play in, you know what I mean, and I think we agree that we overachieved.
I don't think we
You,
overachieved.
you, you don't? Okay.
No, I think that they exceeded my expectations coming into the season. But once they got into the season, once they started gelling, once they started playing, once Tibbs put his stamp on the team, I don't think it was a overachieving team at that point. I think they beat expectations, right? But that team is not even here anymore. You know,
Agreed.
because listen, you can have a team that outplays its talent, but it doesn't mean that they're not a good team. You think about the teams that Atlanta beat. Atlanta beat some teams that were more talented to them than they were, but they were a team. They were playing very well at the right time. People were showing up, and
Hmm.
so they were able to beat more talented teams than they were, right? So I think that was the Knicks in the regular season.
So,
Maybe they weren't as talented, but their chemistry, their coaching, people showing up, all of that kind of went into them um, performing the way they did.
the only reason and it's not even that I disagree. the only thing I'll say is the Knicks were in a position where what were we, a half game above Atlanta? Or no, matter of fact, we
Below.
were tied. We were tied with them, correct?
Tied with them.
And,
Well, we
but
had
we
the
beat them. But
tiebreaker.
we had the tiebreaker. So
Right.
that in itself tells me that we overachieved. You know what I mean? The fact that we were the fourth seed, technically, by default, in a sense,
Hmm.
um, and we weren't games above, let's say, the sixth seed. You know what I
Right.
mean? Like the sixth seed could have easily been the fourth seed, which would have
Right.
dropped
No
us.
doubt. No
That
doubt. Listen, the Knicks could have been.
that's the only reason why I say we overachieved, because it wasn't like we were 3 games, even 5 games better than the guys two standings below us. You know what I mean? So we could have very easily been the sixth seed, and then
Absolutely.
and then
Absolutely.
I mean, we
But you
could have
mean
been that
overachieve?
with the same record. We could have easily been the sixth seed.
Absolutely. But when you say overachieved, are you saying that the even if the Knicks are a six seed, that's still, that's still
Lateral
a
to you.
that's still a good place um to be in. You know what I mean? I mean the
Hmm.
Knicks came into the season with low expectations and they were able to move themselves into, let's just say, the sixth seed
Hmm.
in the Eastern Conference, right?
So what if it's a tiebreaker situation where we're tied with the sixth seed record, but because of the circumstances, we're seventh seed, which then in stance puts us in the play in. Is it still, oh my god? That's, you know what I mean?
I think
That's
I
because
I
I think
think
it's that close in that sense.
I think it would be, oh my God. Listen, a lot of it is based on what the Knicks do in the offseason, not even based on last year, because that team just doesn't exist other than I think the Knicks have 6 players from that team under
Hmm.
contract and only 4 players that were in the rotation.
Playoffs or
So
rotate
if the Knicks are in the playoff team, in the play in, that means that the Knicks didn't do what they needed to do this
in the
offseason.
off season. Okay,
In the off season.
fair enough. Fair enough.
Right.
And that makes sense going into
Yeah.
this topic of,
Right.
you know what I mean, the scenario. So
Right.
fair enough.
Yeah.
So again, the floor is yours.
So I think a dream. So one of the things that I think, in my opinion, Nick fans are missing is we don't really know. We're throwing out all these scenarios, and I don't think they're matching up. I think the Knicks have to decide: are we going young, and this is going to be a slow build, and then certain free agency moves and trades make sense, or is this going to be shoot for the top? We're trying to be a championship contender. We think we got our guy in Randall, and we're trying to maximize his window, because the answer to that impacts how you move in free agency and how you move in the draft. So my dream scenario would be the Knicks saying, I think we have our guy in Randall. Um, Even though he didn't play that well in the playoffs, I think that he will. I think he's going to continue to be an all-star. I think he's going to continue to be one of the top power forwards, one of the top players in this league. And we're going to take our salary cap and we're going to take our assets and we're going to go out there and we're going to build a team uh, with this guy. Not necessarily that he has to be the number one
Focal
guy,
point.
but we're gonna build a team and we're going for it over these next 4 years. And in order for us to maximize his window this summer, we got to go out and we got to try to make that happen. And if those players are not there in free agency, then we got to be aggressive and trying to push some trades so that we can get this train moving. Because remember, when you have a window, Randall's window was maybe 6 years. You got to get the team, at least your core pieces, together so they could start growing together. And the sooner the better. So my dream scenario would be, now, I don't have all of the salary cap workings.
It,
My dream scenario I don't even know if this is possible. This could be a salary cap busting move.
We gonna make believe
We're gonna
it,
make believe
it
is that
works.
I'm going out there and I'm getting. If I'm dreaming, I'm getting Dame and I'm getting Kawhi. But this is my. Let me know if you know if there's an adequate replacement for Kawhi, because this is my issue I have with Kawhi. He's coming off injury. He does a lot of
Load management.
a lot of load management, and he's a I don't know him personally, but he just seems to be this guy that listen. If I feel like I need to take a game off, I'm taking a game off. You know what I mean? So I wish there was an adequate replacement. But I would want Dame, Randall, and some other star. But that other person would have to be somebody that I know I can count on game in and game out. And Kawhi, as talented as he is, with that championship pedigree, I don't know if he's that. I don't know if he's that guy. Game in, game out. I'm gonna go out there and I'm gonna play. You know, an 82 game season, he probably gonna give you what 64 games.
If you're lucky.
You know what I mean? But that's my dream scenario. Let's put this team around Randall. This is our guy. Let's get our core and let's become championship contenders within this 6 year window. It's gonna take us some time to get there. That's my dream scenario.
So I'm 100% with you, and I'm probably even more on the fence for Kawhi at this point than you are.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
I agree with your stance and then some. Number one, um, like going into trying to get Durant, I was willing to pay the money and him sitting out the year and blah 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 blah.
hmm
Kawhi, I, it shouldn't even be a year, but the
right,
fact that it's Kawhi, that means that it may very well be a year because he's not taking no chance to
right,
you know what I mean, like, if he don't, like you said, if he don't want to play, he don't want to play. If he
right,
don't feel he right, it don't matter what the doctors say.
right,
So in that aspect, I don't think he's even in my dream scenario
right.
at this particular point.
Who else would you put there though? Because I'm having a hard time thinking of somebody else.
Um, it's as sad as as sad as it sounds. Chris Paul was on there, and now I'm back to I'm back to reality and thinking about his age and his injury history. Even though he hasn't come out and said he's injured right now, but something got to be up.
Right, right,
This
right,
man had 15 turnovers in 3 days, which, like, come on, Chris Paul 50, that that that's
right,
unheard of,
right,
you
right.
know. So yeah, it's tough as far as my dreams scenario. I'm not even
Maybe Cat.
you know what? I never liked Cat, but at this point I would put him there. Like, I think my dream scenario is not even the same as a lot of other people's because I'm not that high on the cost of Dame.
Right.
I'm not one of the guys that says it don't you do what it takes to get him. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Me either.
Um and
For
so
different reasons though.
that being said, it's gonna be funny, but I'll get to my dream scenario last. How about that?
Okay, okay, yeah. I
Um,
mean,
and,
I
and
think what we talked about, I'm overlooking some things when I say Dame, right? Because my issue, as I've said multiple times with Dame, is because of his age, he kind of shortens the window to win. He's 31 years old. At some point, I mean, there are some people, some players, Chris Paul, LeBron James playing 36, 37. It doesn't mean that he's going to be one of them. You taking a chance, right? So You figure what you got 3 years that'll put him at 34. That's a really tight window to try to win. But it's my dream scenario. So in my dream scenario, he's gonna be effective till he's 37. He's gonna play at a high level. Despite his 54 million in the last year of his contract, we're gonna still be able to put players around him, right?
Yeah.
Um, it's a dream scenario, but I'm with you. I have concerns with Dame, and mostly is his age and how short the window will be. So that's my dream scenario.
No, I hear
Go
you,
ahead.
and I'm not mad at a Kawhi and a Dame partnership with Randall, and
Right, right,
hopefully we have RJ. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I would definitely not be mad at it. It's just,
right.
for me personally, like my dream scenario is probably more of, if I asked everybody these three questions, the middle everybody's middle
Hmm.
suggestion would probably fit more in line with my dream scenario. But
Gotcha.
that being said, you could what's your
I think,
lateral move that
I,
you willing to accept?
yeah, I think my lateral moves would be um, signings that would probably not put us in championship contention, but we would still be in that middle tier. Whether we're 4 through 7, we'll still be in that middle tier. And I think that if we signed Lowry for 2 years, if we signed Derozan, who I don't think a lot of people are high on. I get it. He can't. He's not a 3-point shooter, but he averaged 7 assists. You know what you're gonna get from this guy, game in and game out, and we need those type of players. He knows how to get to his spots. He's an adequate um, defensive player. I wasn't that high on him, but people kept talking about him, kept talking about it, and made me think about it a little more. I wouldn't mind. RJ, DeRozan, and
Larry
and Randall.
and Randall.
And you got
Yeah.
Lowry at the point, and maybe you got either Rose backing them up, maybe you got a younger point guard, backing them up. I think that team is, with I don't know if that team that's a championship contending team. However, I wouldn't be surprised if they moved there just because of Lowry's experience and his dog mentality. I wouldn't be surprised, and under Tibbs, I wouldn't be surprised if they did move into like the top three. But I would
Mm.
still say they would be 4 through 6. A lot of it depends on what the other team would do. I'm okay with Lowry and DeRozan. Um, if we're going that
Mm-hmm.
middle tier. Um, what are you doing?
Wait,
Oh, go ahead.
before you go on, um, because you touched on it, that is my dream scenario.
Oh, really?
Um,
Okay.
and this is why I knew, I didn't know that was you were gonna name it specifically, but I knew that would be most people's middle tier.
Right.
I'm lateral. I don't even think it's lateral. Honestly, I think it's a 100% upgrade.
Upgrade, you're right.
So I'm gonna just go a little bit more in
Mhm.
depth of
Sure, sure.
why. And that's why I put them as the thumbnail. Um,
Oh, I didn't even see that.
you touched on Larry's championship experience. You can't undervalue that. You touched on DeRozan's assist numbers this past season, which is a very high increase over his career. Um, Actually, if you go back and look at his career, the two areas of his game that has always been the black cloud, if you will, or
Mhm.
the negative was
Mhm.
playmaking and 3-point shooting.
Mhm.
Um, so obviously we know the playmaking has improved
Right.
tremendously. Um, and I don't mind him being a, let's even say, bad 3-point shooter. The fact that he's not afraid to take them. He's gonna take them when he needs to.
Mhm.
I accept that. You know what I mean? That's one of the things we were missing from our point guard,
Right.
this year.
Right.
And so I think it fits. If we're losing, let's say a Bullock, right,
Mhm.
and we're replacing him with a DeRozan,
Mhm.
what are we missing and what are we gaining, right? The defense, I don't think we're missing anything. I think
Mhm.
you could. I think it's even, and you can
Mhm.
argue that it's an upgrade.
Right.
Um, as far as 3-point shooting, yes, we're missing it. But as good as he Bullock was, we all know he was spotty throughout the year.
Right.
He had some horrible stretches. He had some
Mhm.
stretches where he didn't take it, and it
Mhm.
was like, dude, that's what you're here for, and he wasn't
Right.
taking the three. Um, so I think we can combat 3-point scoring with just scoring, period.
Right.
Which the numbers are going to be over what we lost with Bullock
Mhm.
as far as scoring as a whole.
Right.
Because if there's one thing DeRozan can do, it's score the basketball.
Right.
Um, Not only that, it's a plus on the free throw line.
Mhm.
Um, Not only that, he's a clutch shooter. So he may not be a good 3-point shooter, but
Mhm.
he might make that three at the end of the game.
Right. And he's somebody you could put the ball in his hand to create
To-
when we need that last second shot. Where I don't think Randall is it might not be there yet. He is.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And as far as we know what we're getting with Lowery, we're getting all that. We're getting the creation. We're getting the defense that we had with Peyton. If not, you can argue an improvement on
Right.
defense.
Mhm.
Obviously improvement in shooting.
Mhm.
Obviously an improvement in facilitating.
Right.
Um, so
Yeah.
that's a 100% improvement every aspect.
Right. Right.
Without like making it seem like shade on Peyton. It's just
Right.
it is what it is.
Facts. Right.
Um, Even with 50 million, I think we could get both those guys.
They both unrestricted, right?
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
Because I have
So
another scenario, but you would have to trade for those guys. These guys you could just go out and
and
sign free and clear.
and this is why it falls in my dream scenario,
Right.
because it costs us no asset, it costs us
Right.
no draft pick, it costs us no player of value. So now we're looking at the team that we had last year and we're comparing it to the team we're bringing in,
Right.
and when you look at it in that place and who they're replacing, it's upgrades all
No
across the
doubt.
board.
Yeah.
um to take it a step further, to put it into a dream scenario, is now we go ahead and make that move for Colin Sexton, right?
Mhm.
And we talked about the value of his contract at 6 million,
Right.
which makes it, like, even if you don't necessarily like him per se, the money makes it more than feasible to say, you know what, yeah, I'm gonna do that. Now
Listen,
you're talking
Tony,
about him coming off the bench and not
that's what I'm about
necessarily
to say.
start.
You know, I got issues if he's the starter, but if he's coming off the bench and he's playing either coming off the bench or playing beside Lowry, it would be a kind of smallish backcourt, but both of those guys are dogs. And under Tibbs defensively, they're gonna be scrapping. So if you got Sexton coming off the bench or even closing the game beside Lowry, now you saying something. Now I think the Knicks would be four. Legitimate four.
Yeah, it's four or better. So
Legitimate four.
so
Yeah, or best. Yeah.
again,
Yeah,
this is
no doubt.
this is this is why it falls not in my lateral, because I think it's
Right,
better.
right.
Like when you're
Yeah,
looking at it from player to player, it's upgrade, upgrade, upgrade. So you
right,
have to think that they're better. Yeah,
right.
I'm looking at even the scenario of the playoffs. Maybe, I mean, I could be wrong, but maybe you need a guy like uh Sexton playing against a guy like Trey Young.
Yeah.
more, and I
No
say that
doubt.
more so than Lowery, even if they
Mhm.
both on the team. You know what I mean?
Right.
But matchup wise, maybe you
Right.
need a guy like that to go after Trey Young. Maybe that
Mhm.
changes things.
Yeah.
Um, a couple more reasons, why, or just to go more in depth, and then we'll get into the oh my god. Oh, and again, this is why it falls more into my dream, because I'm not giving up assets. I'm not giving up draft picks. I'm basically upgrading the team as is and
Mhm.
keeping all of the players that
Right.
some people like, some people don't like, some people
Right.
want to
Right.
trade,
Right.
some people. So, but with Colin Sextons, you do have to make a trade. So obviously, we're gonna lose somebody. If we talk about the trade that was out there, um, maybe you have to do either you don't include Obi and you make it quickly, and I
Mm.
say that because now you got Sexton, right?
Right.
And the question is still, do you want to bring D Rose back? Because I believe
Mhm.
we can go over the cap to sign D Rose, right?
Right.
I believe D Rose and Bullock are the two that we can
Right.
actually
I believe
re-sign.
so. Mhm.
So even if we bring those guys back, those are the last signings that we do after
Mhm.
we eat up the cap. So if you want D Rose,
Mhm.
maybe you think about giving up quickly in that trade, keeping Toppin.
Mhm.
It takes care of a log jam
Mhm.
at the position. Um Sim has talked about it. Bring Melo back on a veteran minimums that covers that backup four spot. So I really thought this out, and this is why I say
Mhm.
dream scenario,
Mhm.
because it's literally a upgrade at every position, every spot. Every guy that we've named so far is definitely
Mhm.
a Tibbs guy.
Tim Scott.
Um, and it doesn't, like, even that trade for Sexton, if you're putting Obi and Knox in, you're actually getting more cap space,
Right.
like immediately.
Right.
So now you're talking 50, 54 or 55. You're getting an extra 5 million by
Right.
doing that trade.
Right.
Um, so again, helps the offseason, gives us a little bit more cap space. So you bring the Mellows in, and you bring you bring in maybe another pick, because I think even if you sign both of those guys at 50, you still have about 5 to 9 million left. So you use that money,
Mhm.
and then you go in and bring D Rose back and Bullock back. Um,
I mean, I don't know about Rose though. I
I
mean,
mean,
I think
even
if
if
you
you don't keep Rose, you keep quickly. You know what I mean?
right.
And
Yeah,
and
yeah. Because if you got Lowry and you got Sexton, where I mean, I guess you could go with regard um lineups.
the way I'm looking at it is quickly and Rose already played together anyway. And if you think about it, that was with Burks, who I think is more of a two guard than a three.
Mhm.
Um, so I'm trying to avoid having four by maybe including. It depends on what your
I think
personal
Quickly got more
preference is.
upside though. And I think
So,
Quickly is somebody you could sit down and he's not going to complain,
well,
you
more
know,
upside than who?
than Rose. I mean, Rose
Okay,
in
okay,
terms of yeah,
okay.
in terms of
Well, I mean, yeah,
just
he's
having a
yeah.
young
One's
player
one's on the
in there.
downside, one's on the upside.
Yeah.
So again,
Yeah.
it's up to your preference. If you
Yeah, yeah.
prefer to let Rose go, because some people don't. You know what I mean? Given what he provided. Now, granted, you're going to be getting that again with Larry,
Correct.
who's a starter. So I agree with you. But again, it could go either way with me. My
Right.
question is if you want Toppin or you want Quickly,
Quickly.
and and I know.
I want Quickly. I just think that Obi plays the same position as Randall. I don't think he's going to get a lot of time. Um, you know, I mean, maybe his time will increase and Randall will get less time, but he's just unless they're gonna go small ball five at times.
See, I think you're basically saying you don't know if Obi's going to produce.
I don't
That's
think he's
that's
gonna get
that.
the time to produce,
but let's. I'm not trying to call you out, but let's keep it real. I
Mhm.
remember numerous of times
Mhm.
where it was it wasn't, oh, Obi needs more playing time. It was Obi needs to play because Randall needs a rest. You know what I mean? And that was based off of
But
his
even if
his
Randall
play.
rests, how much rest he gonna get? Like
I
even if
mean,
he rests, he gonna get what, 18 minutes, 20 minutes the max?
that's enough for a young guy. I think that's one of the reasons why the league has changed so much,
Mhm.
because a lot it's getting younger and younger, but
Mhm. But if
and
he gets
maybe
20 minutes, that means Randall is getting 28. Randall's gonna play more than 28 minutes in a game.
if we're winning, and that's what it is. You know what I mean? I'm not saying
He
anything
not
is
getting
that.
28.
I'm not if
We need to bring it down some, but not all the way down to 28 minutes a game.
I mean, me personally, I don't care about the minutes, if as long as we're winning, and
If we're winning, I
I
don't.
think that's what it boils down to. But I'm looking at it in a comparison to what it was. If we just talking about the rest that Randall needs, and Obi's getting those minutes, like, and looking at it like just from that, I think that's great. Like, Obi don't need more. He don't need developmental minutes if we're a
No.
winning team. You know what I mean? Let that come when it comes. You let us blow some
Yeah,
teams out, and he get playing time.
and he get minutes. I just
Yeah,
don't see Tibbs. I mean, it comes down to, do you want to keep a, if you have an opportunity to get Sexton, do you want to give up a guy that's playing behind an all NBA player who's probably not going to get more than 15, 17 minutes? Or do you want to give up a guy like Quickly that you can hold for your future, who could even be a six, a six man? I mean, I don't know. I
I
mean,
mean, I'm
that's what they'll
I'm
have to
I'm
decide.
not mad at either one, and I know
Hmm.
logically, if you're looking at just numbers, everybody should say um quickly, and I'm not mad if we keep Quickly. Like, honestly, if we could keep them both, I'm happy with
Hmm.
that. If
Hmm.
we could somehow do a sign and trade with Frank and throw Knox in, and whatever draft pick, and,
Hmm.
and and if they acceptable to that, I think that's a win-win for us as well.
Hmm. Hmm.
Um,
Hmm.
I just don't agree that him playing behind Randall is stunting his growth. I
Oh, I
think
don't believe
I
that
like
either.
a lot of, that's a narrative for a
No,
lot of
I don't
people,
believe that
and
either.
and it's almost like, oh, if he's gonna be anybody, he has to go somewhere else. You know what I mean? No, I
At
think
some point, he will.
I
Maybe
think
not
people
next year.
overestimate. I think they expect, granted, and he's an older. He's not as young as most guys going into the second year, but I
Right,
still think they have higher expectations for these young guys. Like, everybody's necessarily ready, or everybody's necessarily
right,
peaked. Like,
right,
most of these kids don't peak before 25, 20. Like,
right,
25 is a young peak,
right,
and people don't
right,
grasp that aspect.
right. No,
Most
I
people are
agree.
peaking at 26, 27, even
Right,
28,
right,
peaking. You know what I
right,
mean? And they think that guys are going to peak within their first 2 years. Like, that's some of the bright side that I like about young guys. But when they're forced to play and forced to have a high role, sometimes that's not a good thing, and,
right.
and, and people don't grasp that
I
either.
agree. I
You,
agree.
you know, you know that could really hinder careers. Some
Right.
people, it could bring out the best of them. Some it'll bring out the worst.
If they're not ready
If
for that. If they're not ready for that.
But yeah,
Yeah.
that's my dream scenario. And now we can talk about some.
Well, the other thing I would add to that is, and we'll talk about this more when we do the Queen's Court together on Wednesday, is we're going to need to address that center spot too. So, in my, just to piggyback off that dream
Mhm.
scenario, I would keep Mitch. He's making, $1.8 million, but I would still have somebody, another center on that team, either Hassan Whiteside, who's a free agent, or Drummond, who's a free agent, that you could kind of switch it up. That gives us different looks. I think with Hassan, if he's in shape, and I think with Tibbs, holding him accountable, similar to what happened in Miami, he's still a little older though, but he's not that far removed from, I think, 2.5 blocks a game when he played
Mm.
with Portland. He's not that far removed from that, and we don't need him to play a lot of minutes anyway. But we're gonna need a backup center. But this is my dream scenario. My dream scenario is Cleveland drafts Mobley and they trying to get off of Jared Allen's contract in terms of paying him his extension. He's a restricted um, free agent, and
This
so
year?
now I believe, yeah, he's a restricted free agent this
Mm.
offseason. So they have to make a decision. They're going to match an offer or sign him to an extension. What they're going to do, but have him play with Mitch, because I need to see Mitch for one more year to see how he develops, how he's coming off that injury. And if we don't like him, Jared Allen is already in the
What
fold, and you can actually trade Mitch for someone, another
and
asset.
just to keep it right on topic again,
Hmm. Hmm.
um, with another reason why this is part of my dream scenario is both those guys, Laurie and Derozan, will still be tradable assets. You
Correct.
know what I mean? So, and I say that in the sense that you can argue whether they're stars or superstars or not, but the fact that they'll have contracts somewhere in the at from my scenario somewhere in that 25
Right.
million range, that's a lot of money to take up if we decide that we're gonna make a move for a superstar or someone better
Right.
than these
Right.
guys down
Right.
the line. Bradley Bill, Dame Lillard, you know what I mean?
Right.
Like
Right.
now at this point, going forward after this, I wouldn't be so mad about going after a Dame Lillard because
Hmm.
I know money wise, we got a $25 million contract that's gonna absorb a lot of it. You know what I
Hmm.
mean? And now we could throw in plethors of picks
Right.
or one
Right.
young guy as opposed to the farm for him.
Right.
You know
Right.
what I mean? Or vice versa with DeRozan for uh the kid that was Prince's guy on Chicago,
Oh,
Levine.
Levine.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
Or
Yeah.
Bradley
Yeah.
Bill or something like that. So that's
Yep.
why that makes it my dream scenario because
Right.
it's not making us stagnant. And it still puts us in a position to make moves in the future. And
And
then
get off the contracts if it doesn't work out.
yes,
You
and
can trade them for
let's
space or whatever.
let's not forget that these two guys was dominating the East. If it wasn't for one man named LeBron James,
Yeah.
you know what I
Yeah.
mean. So
Yeah.
so I think that puts us in a better position than this past year. And again, that's why it's my dream case scenario more so than a lateral or even
Hmm.
move.
Right. Yeah. So in terms of my, are we moving to the next segment?
Yes. Oh my God, what are we doing?
What is this ish would be if the Knicks decide that they're gonna build around the young players and quickly is starting at the point. So they're gonna, um, they yeah, they're gonna build around Mitch, Obi, RJ, IQ. They're gonna find somebody else in the draft, either trade up for somebody in the draft that they can put with those guys. Um, Maybe they trade Randall because they feel like this is not our guy. And I don't know if his value is gonna be any higher. Maybe we can get a younger guy that's kind of more in the window with RJ. Um, and go that route. And there, the Knicks either, if they may not even make the playoffs, or if they do, it'll be like they'll have to play themselves in. Um, that would be my what are you doing scenario. And the only reason it would be my what are you doing scenario, because I feel like you got to catch lightning in a bottle. And when you got an all-star or NBA, it's like the stars are aligning for the Knicks with Randall, with the cap space, with the assets. take advantage of it. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
Whereas to say, we're just gonna kick the can down the road. Um, you don't know if you're gonna ever be in this position again. You don't know if you're gonna be in a better position again. You don't know if any of them young guys are gonna pop and be what Randall is right now, including his subpar playoff performance. You rolling the dice. And I would prefer that the Knicks don't roll the dice and say we're gonna just trade Randall and build around the young people, the young guys. That would be my come on. But at some point, you got to stick your flag in the ground and say we're gonna build right here. You know?
I, I agree. I agree, but I still have a retort because it's amazing how much one year changes things.
Yeah.
Because coming into last season, before the season, I think 95% of the fans would have loved for us to did a youth movement rebuild and said, let's get what we could get for Randall. And
Yeah, no doubt, no
you know
doubt.
what I mean?
But I think he
Um,
changed that with
no,
his
oh,
play, though.
no, not only did he change it, but I think us getting that fourth seed changed it as well because we seen. I'm not gonna
That
say we
fourth
seen
seed
like
is kind of full. We still second tier, even though we
yeah,
got four. We still
you
4 through 6. Like,
you and
yeah,
I know that.
right, right, right.
But the Twitter worlds and some of the chats out there, eh, you know
We don't have that same team, Tony. They like
they have
60% of that rotation is not coming back. So we're gonna have to develop our chemistry all over again.
listen again. You preaching to the choir because I understand this. I'm just talking about what some of the guys out there are saying.
Right,
You know what I
right.
mean? Like they really believe because we did what we did last year that we we have to improve from that and not they're not taking into consideration that it's not going to be easy. It is a whole like it, if we brought everybody back,
Hmm.
there's still no guarantee
Oh
where
no.
we're going to end up. If we ran
Yeah.
it back, you know what I mean. I still think we'll be a good team,
Right.
but there's no guarantee that we're going to be sixth, seventh. I mean, sixth, fifth, or fourth seed.
Because the other teams are gonna upgrade in the off season as well.
Um.
Yeah.
So I mean, but I agree that that would be a oh my god situation, but I think there's a bunch of them. I mean, they could
Yeah.
they could potentially think they're doing. See, I have a lot of faith in our front office right now, so I'm
Yeah. Me
still
too.
like,
Me too.
what does Andy always say? PTSD that we
Right.
suffering from. So I'm
Yeah.
still thinking like the Steve Mills and things like some of the moves that they would have made
Right. Right. Right.
and going for certain maybe established individuals
Mm-hmm.
like I wouldn't put Chris Paul there now because that would be a huge jump for me wanting him as bad as I did for the
Mm-hmm.
past 2 years. So it wouldn't necessarily be a oh my god. That would probably be in my middle tier of lateral at this point because it
Chris
does
Paul, you talking about?
yes,
Okay.
and I say that because it does hamstring us for the foreseeable future. Will it make us a better team? Yes, but I think I want to stay. If I'm gonna stay lateral, I still want to be lateral in the sense that we may be able to win around. You know what I
Right.
mean?
Right. Yeah. No doubt. No
Um,
doubt.
but yeah, I mean, I agree. I definitely don't want a total youth movement. Um, I just don't want. I really don't want to give up the farm for a start either.
But
And,
why
and
not? If that star is gonna get us into championship contention, it depends on who it is.
not only does it depend on who it is, but it depends on who he comes with because it has to
Right.
be two.
Right.
It has to be two.
Ooh. So wait, hold up now. So are you saying that Randall is not one? One of them?
No, I'm saying he's gonna be three.
So you're saying you need 3 All-Stars to be a championship contender. I don't know about that. I think you
I,
could get away with 2 and a strong. rest of your starters, and a strong bench because
I,
everybody doesn't have three.
I think you need three people. I think we need two more people as good or better than Randall.
Wow.
And I say that there's no, I'm being realistic in the sense that yes, Randall was an All Star this year and was most improved and got some MVP votes. He's not a guaranteed All Star next year. There's guys that make it this year, don't make it next, make it 2 out of 3 years. You know what I mean? And at this point, I think I don't want to call him a fringe All Star because that sounds disrespectful, but
Right.
I think that he could be snubbed.
Well, I mean, listen, whether he makes the team or not, you could still be all-star caliber and not make the team from year to year. That happens. Listen,
But that's what I mean.
yeah,
Like even a Derozan and a Lowery, you can argue with all three of these guys. You can argue back and forth. For, hey, he's better than him. Nah, he's better than him. Nah, he's better than
right,
him. I think all
right,
three of those guys are on the same type of playing field
right,
of as good as Randall, or you can argue better.
right. And that's why I'm saying I don't think it's always that you need three if the rest, because you think about Milwaukee prior to this year, they were still championship contenders. I think Drew Holiday put them over the top, but they were still championship contenders with just Middleton, Giannis, and just a strong, bench, and what have you. It depends on how strong those two are. I would say that we we don't really know what we have in Randall yet. That's why I don't want to trade assets just yet for a star to put with Randall because I don't know who he is yet. I need to see him do it one more year. I need to see him perform in the playoffs. Then I know I got one. Then I know I got one. Now we can start trading assets. I don't want to trade assets to put with a guy that I don't really know if he's the guy
So I think
or
we're
could be
saying
one of the guys.
I think we're saying the same thing, except I do think excuse me, I do think Randall is one of the guys. It's you know what I mean, like,
But to
but
take up the money he's taking, he can't be a third option. Like he got to be two with the money that he's about to make. You know what I mean? He's your third guy. Mm,
but when I say, see, I'm maybe you're questioning.
hmm
I'm overvaluing him because when I say third, I'm saying three equals. So
Okay.
I want
Okay.
I want him or better. You
Okay.
know what I mean? Like,
Three equals. Okay.
but it could be
Okay.
three guys as good as, and
Gotcha.
that's why I say
That's
back
good.
to the
That's good.
Lowery, back to the DeRozan. I think you can argue.
That would be good.
You can argue Randall's better than DeRozan, but you can also argue DeRozan's better than Randall. You could argue the
Yeah.
same thing with Lowry about the two of
Yeah.
them.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? So
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
that's why I say of his caliber or better. Um, whether he's the third or not,
Doesn't
he got to
matter.
be at least as good as the other
Right.
two guys.
Right. Right.
Um, and with a superstar, if we're giving up everything, I agree. I'm not, but I don't say it like I don't know if I'm not sure about Randall. I just
hmm
don't. I'm not sure if Randall and one other guy, superstar or not, is enough. You know what I mean? That's why I think we need two, and I think Dame is a superstar, but Dame and Randall, and then us having to fill out, but not knowing what we're filling out. I'm scared of that. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
I
because
agree.
you may give up. You may give. They may ask for everything, and
But the
when it
Knicks don't
comes to
have to
that,
give everything, and you got to be fair about it. But you know, it's going to be interesting what they do. But don't think if they are swinging for Dame, don't think you coming out of that trade with just giving up a trade around Obi and IQ for Dame.
oh, that's what I'm saying. I'm
Yeah,
saying, I'm
yeah.
saying, RJ or Randall is going to be included,
You can't
and
include Randall because that defeats the purpose. You back at
I
square one if you ask me.
I agree. But if they start with Randall and you saying no, then it's definitely RJ, right? and it's gonna be everything that you want to keep because we're letting you keep. Like basically, that's what they're gonna say, or that's what I would say. You can
Mhm,
keep one guy. I want everything else and some
mhm.
picks. You know what I mean? Like that. But
Yeah,
if I know you're one guy, I'm gonna start with him, even though I don't really want him. I'm gonna start with the one guy you want to keep.
right.
No,
But they
no, we
know, anybody knows that if they going to get a superstar, they trying to look for somebody to play with um Randall, because otherwise it just doesn't make sense.
and even if it, I mean, I love Randall, but even if it did include Randall somehow, some way, if the team was like, hey, I want Dame, I don't care what it takes. Oh, you want Randall? Sure. Um, I wouldn't necessarily be mad at that. It just means you still a lot of building to do. You know, you know what I mean?
But
Like
but
you
but what
gotta.
I'm saying is, if you got Dame and you don't have Randall, now you're giving away assets. Who are you putting? Now you gotta go out and find an all star to put with him.
Oh, I agree. I,
You
I
know,
I'm not saying. I'm just saying
and
at
and
that
you got
point
to do
you
that within his 4 year window, if it is even that long.
no, they would have to do that immediately. Like this off season. Like
Right, right,
it,
right,
it,
right,
it-
right,
yeah, it's possible. It's far fetched, but uh,
right.
you know what I mean. Like, but I'm just saying, if you're doing that, you're banking on RJ's future because I don't think RJ's in it. You're giving up less. So the surrounding pieces, obviously, the young guys are still
Mhm.
going to be here. You would need to build around Dame, RJ, quickly, Obi. You know what I mean? And
That's a mismatch of windows.
yeah, but you'll have the money to bring in another max at the very least because Randall's
Mm.
taking up the majority of that salary. The besides Randall, it's going to be mostly picks.
If you're
You- you-
doing that, then you're giving up those younger pieces to fill out the rest of your starting lineup in your bench, because it's just too much of a drop
yeah,
off between
yeah,
your two superstars. Eh, RJ may not be much of a drop off, but then after that,
I agree. But I mean, Mitch is still starting caliber. Basically, you're filling in power
you would
forward,
need
which
somebody else other than Mitch on a
maybe
team like that.
or maybe you get a cat. You know what I mean? At
Right,
that point,
right,
um,
right, right,
I mean, granted, I don't think that's the right move. I'm just giving
right. Yeah, yeah, yeah,
scenarios
yeah,
of
yeah.
like these are oh my god scenarios to me. That's what I was trying to say. Like you could go after a superstar and it end
Mm-hmm.
up being oh my god, what are you doing to me?
Right,
Where
right,
some
right.
some people don't, they feel like whatever it takes for this guy, I feel like I've seen that already. I've
Mm-hmm.
I've seen when you do whatever it takes for
Right,
somebody.
right.
You
Yeah.
gotta negotiate and negotiate properly. The good thing I will say is I have full faith in this front
The front.
office. Um, especially being coming from being the agent, you know what I mean, and knowing what players want, knowing how to
Mm-hmm.
necessarily negotiate with other front offices, and
Mm-hmm.
the the things that stump them as an agent. You may be
Mm-hmm.
able to see it from another side now.
Right.
You may be able to give an incentive that you knew would have put your signing over the top as an agent. You know what I
Right.
mean? You may be able to use those tactics to
Right.
to
Right.
to bring guys in. So, I mean, I'm very comfortable, and I feel like they'll make the right decision overall. I really do.
No, don't doubt about it. I mean, and they got, knowledgeable people in the front office. They're working as a team. They got one head, it seems like, over different positions, the draft, free agency, whatever. So when they all get together, it's not just two people. They're getting multiple perspectives. So I think it's going to be good. I think it's going to be good for the Knicks. Um, I just wish I had an inkling into their direction. Like, are we moving off of Randall, building around the young guys, or are we building with Randall?
I
You know.
don't. I don't think they're moving off of Randall. Or let me say this:
Hmm.
they don't have to make that decision this shit like now
Right.
today. So
Right.
whether they are or not, we're not gonna know until next
Free
year because
agency.
yeah, because
I think
I
free
I
agency will give us an inkling.
well Yes, yes, depending on the term, how long the deals are that we're giving out.
Hmm.
Because if we do the same thing we did last year with a bunch of 1 year deals,
Hmm.
that 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 just leaves a question mark for that leaves everything open.
Yep.
You know what I mean? And
Yep.
there's been people saying that they want the cap space flexibility next year. So that may be the direction, which to me that's even that is I don't like that. I want them to make their moves and decisions now. I don't know if that's what you're saying when you say you want to know.
Yeah,
Like
like I think we'll get some inkling. So for example, if they if they get an NBA ready player in the draft, that's letting me know they're looking for somebody that's going to help them right now. They looking for moves that's going to help them right now. Um, that Sexton move to me makes me think that they're going to go for a longer window, which is fine. Um, because he's so young, and I don't know if he's ready to be a point guard on a championship contending team right now. I think it's going to take him a few more years of seasoning. Now, if they bring in a veteran point guard with him, like we were talking about, that's a different story. But if they just bring him in, give him the keys to the show, and you know, uh, that to me, that's signaling this is going to be a slower build.
I, I don't. The only reason I disagree with that is
Mhm.
because technically he's more seasoned than you know our guys other than Peyton and Rose. I think he could come in. First of all, he's an obvious upgrade over Peyton, right? So in that sense, you could
Yes.
bring him in and still be trying to win now. You know what I mean? Like he could play Peyton's role and it would be an upgrade. You know what I mean?
It would be an upgrade, but it wouldn't be a championship contending move to me because I think he would need a few more years for that. I
But
think it
we
would be more of a lateral move. I mean, it would be an upgrade at that position, but I don't see the Knicks. The Knicks would still be a middle tier team.
he's not going to put us over. It's still going to be other moves that we have to do. But the beauty of getting him is we still are, we're still making moves. Like that doesn't us getting him doesn't change the fact that we have 50. Actually, like I said, it increases how much money we have in free agency. So that money has to get spent. That's
What I'm
that's
saying, if you're going to get another point guard, I'm cool with that. But if Sexton is your starting point guard and you don't have any other like veteran seasoned point guard on the roster, I don't think I think yes, it's an upgrade over Peyton.
you including Rose in that scenario. Then Rose coming back, bringing Rose back. If Rose is
You can
out, out,
bring Rose, you
out,
can bring
out,
Rose
out,
back, but I don't see Rose as somebody you can really count on.
out
I see
oh,
Rose as somebody
oh, you don't want Sexton to start.
I
See,
don't
this
want
is
I
you
don't
don't think
see
he's
him.
starter caliber.
Well, he is.
See,
He
that's
is.
that's where
But I'm having but these are my concerns about him. I see him more as a two guard. I see him more as an undersized two guard. I don't really see him as somebody that can create. He can create for himself, but I don't see him as somebody that creates for himself and creates for others. I don't really see him as that type of point guard. Now, can he grow into that? He can grow into that. And I think coming in under Tibbs, Johnny Bryant, he very well may do that. But he's not there now. So that means a few more years of development. Maybe just a year, but it's still a few more years of development. So again, if you bring in Lowry, I feel like not only and DeRozan, not only are we the fourth seed, but depending on who else you bring in, we could be knocking on championship. It depends on
Mhm.
how well that team's gel. I don't see that with I don't see that same path, that same upside if you switch Lowry out and put Sexton in there. I don't see the same
See,
upside.
but what in my scenario, and in any scenarios, we're gonna have Sexton first, regardless. because if that happens, it's gonna happen draft night or before.
But what are
So
they going to do afterwards? Are they going out and get a Lowry
so
afterwards, or are they
so
spending their money on forwards and centers
I
afterwards?
now I would have to do some research and thinking, but I think we could still go that route and get Colin like we don't necessarily have to get another point guard, a starting or another starting point guard
Hmm.
to still have a winning situation or still be able to keep that fourth seed or better. And I say that, and again, help me if I'm wrong, because I know I keep saying this, but we started Alfred Payton all year, like the entire
But
year.
Elfrid
So
Payton, as terrible
if
as he was still somebody who would pass the ball.
you don't
Nah, he
you really
might.
think
He might. He
I
might.
think that's overstated. That he doesn't pass the ball.
I'm
What
not
he
saying he
averaged
doesn't.
three assists.
It's not that. It's not even assist. You could get assists. It's how you get assists. It's about his feel for the game. It's about his vision. It's that type of stuff. Now
Because
he could
that's the
come to
same
the
thing they were
Knicks
saying about
and
Dennis
be a.
Smith. And I agree with that with Dennis Smith way more than I do with Sexton. You know what I'm saying? Like, so I just feel like it's been overstated or it's unfair that that's been the narrative
I
because
don't think that's unfair. I'm not saying that he can't pass the ball. I don't think it's unfair to say that this is a guy who, right now in his development, again, I'm not saying he's going to always be this, but I don't think it's unfair to say right now in his development, he's more of a shoot first point guard who does not create a lot for his teammates. Now, I'm not saying he's not going to ever be able to do it, and maybe he'll come to the Knicks and he'll be a totally different person. But that's the knock on him. And but what's his name brought up a good point. Ron Cleveland, he said, Kyrie was like that also in his first few seasons, but it still was legit. He was able to change it, but it was legit. And that's all I'm saying about Sexton. It's a legit concern, but it doesn't mean that he can't change it. That's all I'm saying.
shout out to the chat. My bad for not acknowledging you guys. I've been really like getting into it. Like this is a great conversation for me and Steph. So I apologize. Shout out everybody. Shout out Ron Cleveland as well. I did not hear him say that, but it's funny that you mentioned it because
Hmm.
I was just looking at the first 3 year numbers.
Hmm.
Like an hour before we got on, and um the numbers are very similar. Kyrie's assists were a little bit higher, um, but I wanted to mention that because
Hmm.
of the people who think that his empty stats and not winning and this and that. Um,
Some of it is, listen, some of it is unfair because of the team he played on. You're not going to really know until he gets to a better team. But what I'm trying to say is there are question marks. And I would prefer to go. I'm not saying I don't want to have him on the roster. I'm not saying
mhm.
that. But I'm not going into to with the questions around him. I'm not overly confident going into next season if he's our starting point guard that he would be able to overcome it. He might, but I would prefer something a little more known.
I I mean I agree, but I'm
I
not.
would prefer something a little more
I'll
known.
I'll take it a step. I'll say the same thing, but
Hmm.
I'm not gonna be mad about it. You know what I mean? Like again, I'm gonna keep bringing it up. Like if we traded Alfred Payton for Colin Sexton, I don't think anybody would have been you know what I mean, mad at any type of
Yeah,
asset of it.
that's
So
true. But
that's
listen,
the way I'm looking at it.
you're looking at it that way.
Are there still moves that we need to make to improve? 100%, absolutely. I'm not
But
saying
listen,
this guy
you can
is
bring in a better player at a position and be a worse team because it's about the chemistry and it's about how you work together. So even though Sexton is better than Peyton, doesn't mean the team is going to be better because it's more dynamic than just taking out one, putting in the other. It's about how it affects the flow of the entire team,
I
right?
agree. I agree.
Um, but I'm not saying I don't want him on the roster at $6 million with what we would have to give up. I'm all for it. This guy's a dog on defense. I don't think the New York would be too much for him at all. And I do think that our coaching staff would help him become, whatever the player that he's going to become. I believe in all of that. But as my starting point guard, I would just prefer to have someone a little more known with less question marks. That's
I
all.
I agree that he doesn't have to be the starter. You know what I mean?
Right.
But I feel like one, he is a a Tibbs guy. You know what I mean? This guy focuses on defense. He likes to
Hmm.
play defense. Like you're never gonna have to push him
Right.
to guard
I
his
agree with
man.
that.
Um,
Right.
and I just want to reiterate something because I'm not being down on Peyton when I say these things. When I keep
Hmm.
saying that,
Right.
you know what I mean? Like you guys, I got accused of being a Peyton defender all the time just for me saying, it wasn't his fault necessarily. So
Hmm.
if anything, I'm complimenting and I'm saying we won with all the flaws of Alfred Payton. The guy that everybody hated all year long. The guy
Hmm.
that took Randall's place as the blame for any loss every game that we lost. Um so when I say I'm looking at it in that aspect, he does a lot of the same things. He drives to the basket. He maybe, I mean, the knock is he might not be that efficient, but that was the knock on Peyton finishing at the rim. So you know what I mean. Same thing. Defense focuses on that. One of the same things. Ironically enough, a lot of people argued that Peyton didn't pass the ball this past year, and then we would bring up how he averaged, 5 or 6 assists the previous year. So he's capable. You know what I mean. So I just think he's a perfect upgrade, and he doesn't necessarily have to start. So I agree with you in that way,
Right.
but it's gonna start there,
Hmm.
and if it starts there with us continuing cap space with the cap space we have, possibly having more cap space, that's a great start. Let's see what we can do after that. So
Hmm.
what it, it, you you don't
Somebody in.
think
Go ahead. Go ahead.
do
Say
you
it.
do you think there's a scenario where he can be our starting point guard? Granted, now we have 54 million in cap space. Um, no Obi, no Knox, no 19th pick. What can we do in that aspect, but leaving Colin Sexton as the starting point guard? 54 million in cap space now. Who are two guys that we could get? And we're gonna maybe not say the pipe dream guys. The you know what I
Right.
mean, the Kawhi really.
Yeah. I'm
Or
not really
is
high
is
on a
there?
lot of people in free agency. I'm not high on Oubre. Um, I think he's just too. I mean, he's at this point where either he's ascending, and we're catching him right before he takes off, or his inconsistency that we've seen over the past few years is just who he's going to be. And there's really no way to tell. I like he potentially has a higher ceiling than um his name escapes me. He was just DeRozan.
Uh-huh.
Um, but I feel like if the Knicks are trying to stay level or even move up a little bit, you got to have plays where you know what you're gonna get game in and game out. So you could still get DeRozan. Sexton doesn't really stop us from doing anything we want
Mm-hmm.
to do. You could still
Mm-hmm.
get Lowry. You could still get. I would love Lowry and Sexton. That I'm good. I would, because now he gets the opportunity to mature.
Learn.
We
Mm-hmm.
not we not because when you have a point guard, he can mess up everything. If you got a point guard who has the ball in his hand all the time and he's tunnel vision and he's not playing well, that can really mess up your flow. That being said, if you're gonna keep the ball in Randall's hand, if you're gonna let RJ handle the ball a little more, and so it's not so traditional where Sexton is pounding, bringing it up every single possession,
Mm-hmm.
then I think that's good because he shoots well enough, he slashes well enough to play off of Randall bringing the ball up, play off of RJ, and in that scenario, I'm good money.
Okay.
But if you
Okay.
telling me you putting the ball in Sexton hand and everybody else's, and he's gonna be the one to run our offense, I don't know. I
I
don't know.
I mean, I don't even know if it's necessary. I think he's the kind of guy. One, I think he can make the right reads.
Hmm.
I think he's shown that more times than not. I just think he's gotten a bad rap.
Okay.
But when you putting the ball in his hands, you know why you putting it in his hands. Go get us a bucket. And we didn't we needed that periodically throughout the
Periodically, not all the time. We
regular
can't have
season,
nobody chucking now.
but we definitely needed that in the playoffs. You know what I mean? Like we needed periodically throughout the regular season, but that's what we needed in the playoffs. And you know who
Right.
did it? Who did it? Derrick Rose. That's the guy that did it. You know what I mean? So now we're talking like trying to
Right.
compare the Derrick Rose
But you need
MVP,
somebody. Yeah.
but
That's
you can
it's
definitely compare what he does and what Derrick Rose did for us last year. You know what I mean? Rose made the right reads, but he wasn't a facilitator. You know what I mean? Like that wasn't what he came in the game to do.
right. But he came in the game to do it. He didn't start. You know, understand? He
Mm-hmm.
was our spark plug off the
Off the bench.
off the bench, and so coming in to give us that spark. And if Sexton is in that role, I'm good. I'm good.
I agree. I
You
agree.
know, and listen, he may surprise me. You know, he may surprise me. He may come in as the starter, and because that's one of the hardest roles for a point guard to a scoring point guard to learn. When
Mm-hmm.
do I go for mine? When do I facilitate? Which part of the game is it on me to try to make something happen? Which part of the game is it on me to try to facilitate and get everybody involved? Right? That's not always easy to figure out, and that's part of growth, you know.
Um, what are your thoughts of a Sexton quickly backcourt? Because to me that kind of scares me. I'm talking about off the bench, obviously.
Off the bench,
Yeah,
yes,
yeah, yeah.
yes,
Because
yes. Oh, I'm good with that.
but that scares me more so. But I also believe, well, not necessarily scares me, but I mean, I think that he's definitely more a playmaker than quickly is at
Yes,
this point in his
yes,
career. You know what I mean? A lot of people, again, this is not directed at you. This is directed more of things that I hear. You know, a
right.
lot of people, call for quickly to start, and you know what I mean. Again, this is I'd much rather have a somebody who started 3 years and
Right.
even if he's not a facilitator, he knows how to pass the ball a little bit better than a quickly at this point. But you think that would be a dynamic backcourt off the bench?
Yes, it will.
S- s- okay.
Yeah,
And you wouldn't have the same concerns as far as his facilitating, even
because
in
it's
the
the
bench
second.
in that bench role.
No, because in that, um, I think it. I think on the second team, it hurts you less. Like if he
If he's
becomes
getting
a
you 22, then it really don't matter if he
yeah,
gave
it's the
you
second team.
if he if he gave you five assists off the bench, as long as he's giving you that
Right,
20.
right.
I hear you.
Yeah, yeah. But where I think on the first team, now, Randall is not getting in his flow. RJ is not getting into his flow. The rest of the team are not getting into their flow because, this person is just coming up shooting, all the time. And I've seen that in Cleveland as well.
Mm.
But, the counter argument could be that he didn't trust those guys or, he didn't think that they would be able to do it. Um,
I don't know why I'm so high on this kid, man. I was one of the people calling for Burks to play some point guard minutes, and I feel and even though he showed facilitating capability, I feel like Colin Sexton's a way better facilitator still than a Burks. Even though
I didn't
again
think Burke was a
Yeah, no,
facilitator either.
most people didn't agree with my take of playing Burks at the point guard, but we've seen Tibbs did it later on in the season. So and then some people mentioned Like, oh, maybe we can do it. But
But just because you
but
play that position,
I think Burks was more of a chucker, if you will. Even though I've seen his playmaking ability, I think he's more of a chucker than a Colin Sexton's. It is, you know what I mean?
right?
Appreciate you, Frank.
Yeah.
Appreciate all you
They were saying
guys.
that the Knicks were in talks over. Somebody in the chat, I forget who it was, said the Knicks are in talks for DeJounte Murray out of
The Spurs,
the Spurs. I forgot who said that. We in talks with San Antonio about Dante. It's DeJounte, isn't it? I think it's
I think it's
DeJounte.
Dante. Yeah,
DeJounte Murray. And I said, stop playing with my emotions.
I did see. That's funny. I didn't see him say that, but I seen your post of "Stop playing with my emotions," and I didn't know what you were referring to.
Yeah.
But yeah, I like that kid too. I don't know. The Spurs have a history of, well, not necessarily. I think we could have an even trade with them. I
With
think
this front office, it would have to be. I don't think this front office is going for it, you know.
um I think he would be considerably cheaper than Shea Gildress right now. I think he'll be. I think you could probably get him at the same deal. Excuse me, you would get a Colin Sexton. I
I
think
think so. I don't know what his contract hits. I just like.
what
I, go ahead.
you like him. You like him more than Sexton.
I like
That's
him
it.
more than Sexton because I believe he is a slightly better facilitator than Sexton, even though he may not be as dynamic offensively. Um, he's just as good defensively, though, when he's longer and
Longer.
taller.
Yeah.
But I think Sexton is probably more dynamic in terms of getting in the key, keeping the defense on their heels. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
But I like DeJounte because he's solid, and for me, I prefer a solid guard. Where he's not going to score a lot. I don't think he's going to be. This is somebody that's probably going to get you 12 points. He's a very good rebounder for his position too. 8 rebounds, 6 assists. Like he's one of those type of guy. But everybody else is going to be involved.
So you'd be okay starting the Jonathan. You think you
I
get
would.
if it costs us the same deal? They say, hey, you could
That's a
bring
good
bring
question.
this package to Cleveland, or you could bring this package to the Spurs. Um, I, one
That's a good
the
question. I
same
think
package.
Sexton has a higher upside, especially if he's able to get his playmaking down, right? Ooh, 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 ooh. I think I would still go with DeJounte
Mm,
and get my scoring elsewhere.
mm.
We would still need scoring with him. But that is a very good um
All
question
right.
because if Sexton could ever, because if you think about Russell Westbrook,
Uh
John
huh.
Wall, Dame Lillard, Steph Curry, these are all guys that can shoot, score, and play make. If he can ever do that, he would be one of the top point guards
I agree.
in the league. He would be one of the top point guards in the league. That's the swing factor, in terms of whether he just becomes, a score first point guard or if he would become an elite point guard. His playmaking, that's the swing factor right there.
Mm. That's and that I mean I agree with everything you said, but that's why I think I would pick Colin. Just
Yeah.
because I think it's easier to teach a guy to, like I keep saying, make the right read. Because that's all you don't need a
I
guy.
don't know how
You
easy that is
it,
though.
it's easier to teach a guy to make the right read than it is to tell a guy, hey, go drop, go get me 20. I know you average 12,
Oh,
but
that's not his. Nah, that's not
get
his
me
game at all.
get me 20 tonight. You,
Right,
you know what I
right, right,
mean?
right,
Or just saying, hey, I see Randall is off and RJ's off tonight. I'm gonna put the, you know what I mean? I'm gonna put it on my shoulders. And
right.
so if you compare like what you might need from Dejounte going
Mhm.
forward, or every now and again, and what you might need from Colin. I think it's easier to teach Colin to make, you know what I mean, read the offense, because I don't think it's never been an IQ thing, and you know what I mean. Like, if anything, his IQ has been average or better. You know what I mean? Like, you've never heard anybody say, "Oh, it's his basketball IQ." It's
Not
really a
necessarily that. It's like the feel for the game. Like I don't know. I'm okay, and DeJounte Murray is also coming out of a San Antonio system. So you already know this guy is fundamentally sound. You already know um, that he knows how to play and he has a good feel for the game.
could work on the reverse too. He may just be a system guy that, I mean, you know what I mean? Like, he may
Yeah.
thrive in the system and come to another organization and you know what I mean? Like, again,
Yeah.
this is
Yeah.
this is again why I'm stuck on Sexton, like, because hey, if you can score, you can score anywhere. You know what I mean? Like, it don't matter.
But it's more to
You're
being a
not gonna be
point guard
scoring.
than scoring, though. If you're
No,
telling me he's our spark plug off the bench, I'm good.
I'm just
I'm
saying,
good with Sexton.
I'm only telling you what we know we're gonna get every night.
But I
Like,
think we
you
need
get
more
what you
from that
get,
point guard
and
position than
you work
scoring. You don't
on.
think?
No, he's gonna need to improve, or and what I like to say is show that he can facilitate. He's gonna need to show it, but I think it's gonna be a little bit easier. One, he knows that's what everybody's talking about. You know what I
Hmm.
mean?
Hmm.
He knows that that's the perceived uh knock on him. Um,
Hmm.
I just think it's gonna be easier, and we're gonna need the reason I also like this
Hmm.
scenario with grabbing him. Let's say it cost us one pick, and now we focus on a big man and a shooter in the draft. With those next two picks or
Right.
next three picks. You
Hmm.
know what I mean? And because I think that's all we're gonna need. The roster's full with him, and bringing a Lowery, bringing a Derozan, mid level exception guy, vet minimum guy. If Obi's in that trade, you bring a Mellow in for the bench. I think the roster will get filled a whole lot easier, and and,
Hmm.
and like we both agree on, at least with this, is it's at the very least a lateral move, fourth seed, maybe better.
With Lowry and DeRozan.
Larry DeRozan,
Oh yeah.
Sexton off the
Yeah.
bench.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know what I mean? We're bringing a Mello. I don't know how you feel about Mello. I keep saying that.
I
That's
like
my guy.
Melo.
That's my guy too. But
I like
yeah,
Melo.
bringing a Mello,
He could still play. We're not asking him to play a lot of minutes. He's still good at what he does.
and at that point, the only thing that we would be relying on, which would be a risk. And again, this is my guy too, is Mitchell Robinson, and I say that in the sense of just him being healthy and
Right.
staying healthy.
Right.
Because a healthy Mitch,
Right.
because at this point we would be bringing in a big man from the draft. So we talk about Mitch and a rookie big man, which I think is harder to just bring a guy in as a rookie in a Tibbs system, a big guy. Then
Yeah, but there's a lot of rim runners in the and there's a few, I should say, rim runners in the draft. But I think, and we'll talk about this more Wednesday, Usman Garuba, I think he could play backup four. Um, you're not gonna get much offensively from him,
mm-hmm,
other than on the offensive boards and on pick and roll if he's rolling to the basket dunks
rim
or
runner.
whatever. But defensively, this guy is a demon. He would fit right in, and he's a good playmaker too. He knows how to play. The only issue is that when he gets the ball, they're gonna just fall back and just let him. You know,
Go
they
ahead. Let me
just
see.
gonna let
Put
him
it in the
shoot.
hole. I mean,
I don't think we're gonna be relying too much on the draft, though. I love Chris Duarte, who's a shooter in this
mm-hmm,
draft. Trey Murphy the third out of Virginia, who's a
mm-hmm.
shooter. These are older guys,
Isn't he a big though? He's a big, right? Trey
Trey
Murphy,
Murphy is 6'9". I think he could
6'9".
play three. I don't,
Yeah.
and they
Well,
have him
yeah,
listed
yeah,
as a shooting guard
yeah, yeah, yeah,
because he
yeah,
can't really put the ball on
yeah.
the
No, no,
floor.
no,
But
no.
that corner
I,
three,
no, I like that kid too. I like that kid too. I just meant like he's 6'9". I
yeah, yeah,
my
yeah,
only worry was that knowing that I thought that they were saying he would be a 4, but if he, I look at him as a 3 as well. If they got him listed as a 2, even better.
yeah,
I
yeah,
like that kid. I like both of
yeah,
those guys, honestly.
yeah.
I'm not a concern with being 2024 for Dorte.
Right.
Um, to me, that I mean, granted, we said the same thing about 22-year-old Obi.
That's what I
Um,
said too. I'm like, oh, he NBA ready. He gonna be good. And then I was like, we said the same thing about Obi.
but different. We when we looked at Obi, let's be honest. We didn't really even look at his 3-point potential. We looked at him as a post guy, as a lob guy, and we
Right,
didn't get to see that often at
right.
all. So that I think that's where, like, if we look at it just from a game perspective, I think most of
Hmm.
us are optimistic that we seen that Obi could actually shoot. Now,
Right,
maybe we didn't want him to just be stationary or positioned in that same spot all year long. But
right,
the
right,
fact that we know he could shoot the ball
right.
was a surprise for us, and I think that that goes to why I'm still comfortable with him going forward. Duarte is a shooter and a shooter. That's gonna translate. You know what I mean? Like
No doubt about it.
whether you
He's one of the best
18,
shooters in this draft class.
yeah, whether you 18 or 25, I don't care if you coming into the draft as a shooter. Like
Yeah,
that's gonna translate.
yeah.
So I do like that guy. Um, yeah, it's exciting times, man.
It is.
I
It
can't wait
is.
to
It
this
is.
draft party. Speaking of the
Yeah.
draft party, anybody listening, when the video is over, I need you to go back into the video and comment. Don't it will not count if you comment now when you're live, but if you go back in and comment, I'm gonna pick a random comment, and I'm gonna give away a free admission to the draft party in Atlantic City. So again, make a comment after the video. Um, I mean, you can like and subscribe and do all that other stuff too, but make a comment after the video, and I'm picking a random subscriber and or a random comment, and I'm gonna give away a free ticket. We'll get it to you hopefully by. I'm gonna hope to get it to you guys by Wednesday or Thursday, so that you guys can make arrangement for next Wednesday or next Thursday, the
Next
draft
Thursday.
party. Um,
It's
so
gonna be popping, as Sim would say.
yes, yes, yes. Bunch of us there. We're gonna do some live podcasting, group podcasting.
Yeah,
It's gonna be a blast. Debates,
yeah.
everything.
And you could come
Uh,
up to the mic and give us your opinion on how you think about, what you think about what we're saying. So
that's right.
it's gonna be good.
Um, you coming down early, or you coming down day
I'm
of?
coming down early Thursday.
Okay, all right.
Yeah,
Yeah, looking forward to it.
yeah, yeah.
Queen, thank you for jumping on
Oh,
again.
you're
I will
very
see
welcome, of course.
you on
Wednesday,
Wednesday,
8
eight
o'clock.
o'clock.
We're
Yes,
gonna
we got
break
the
down those power forwards and those centers, both in free agency and the draft, um, for the Knicks. So yeah, Queens Court Wednesday, 8 o'clock with Tony Crow. Yo, Blackest Time.
appreciate you. Shout out to the chat. As always, your blackest time. Peace.